Welcome to PBI Radio, everybody. I'm Chris Guns, and in this segment I'm going to be joined by boxing judge extraordinaire, Harold Lederman. Now, Harold really needs no introduction the whole boxing world over. He's enjoying his 6th decade in the sweet science. Almost everybody knows Harold from his years spent at HBO as HBO's own boxing judge. Anyway, I'm sure everyone out there heard of Harold Lederman. They know Harold Lederman, so let's just get right to it. Welcome, Harold. I know you're from the Bronx. Tell me about the way it was like for you to come up in the Bronx back when you were coming up. What kind of neighborhood are you from, Harold?
Well, my father was a pharmacist. My mother was, she did accounting work for my uncle's wholesale drug business. I had one sister who is 5 years younger than me. She's now, I guess, an assistant principal of a school, and she's been in education her whole life, and runs marathons.
And tell me about your neighborhood.
Oh, middle class Italian neighborhood.
And what kind of kid were you?
I don't know. I mean, we went to junior high school, and college, all on the subway.
And who got you interested in boxing, Harold?
My father. He had two passions in life: the theater and boxing. And he used to take me to the fights when I was a kid. I'm going back to when I was 4 or 5 years old. At a place called Long Beach Stadium, and that's where I got interested. Long Beach Stadium was an outdoor arena in Long Beach, Long Island, and they used to have fights there every Friday night if it wasn't raining during the summer, because you don't run outdoors in New York in the winter. And everybody in the 40s and the 50s fought at Long Beach. I mean, all the famous fighters. Sandy Sadler fought there. Roland Lastaza fought there. Tony Gennaro fought there. I mean, anyone that was famous in the 40s and the 50s fought at Long Beach.
Was boxing your favorite sport coming up as a kid in New York?
Yeah, I would say so. Boxing and football. I was a baseball fan too, that's for sure. And basketball.
Mm-hmm. Did you play any sports?
Played football in high school.
So you played football. Were you any good?
I played. No. But I played.
Yeah. Who were your favorite?
And who were some of your favorite fighters as a kid?
As a kid?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I guess Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar Ray Robinson.
And we all know that in your real life, you are a pharmacist. Where'd you go to school for pharmacy?
Columbia.
Mm-hmm. And
My family went to Columbia. My father, my grandfather, all my uncles.
they all pharmacists too?
Yep. Well, one of my uncles became a dentist, and then he passed away. But a lot of them were pharmacists.
And what year did you graduate from Columbia?
I graduated from Columbia in 1961.
So you graduate from Columbia University. You're a pharmacist. What made you decide to actually get involved in the sport of boxing?
I guess it was when I got out of the Army. My father-in-law was an inspector with the New York State Athletic Commission, and I used to go to fights every week, and so I would sit there keeping score and whatnot. And, he took me to the Athletic Commission, and they asked me. I said I wanted to be a judge. They said, well, you got to get some experience. So I said, what do I have to do? They said, judge amateur boxing. So I did that for 2 years, and then I went back to the State Athletic Commission in 1967 and got my first professional license.
Now, you're a smart man, Harold. You could have been anything in the sport. What made you decide to choose judging and not promoting, not matchmaking? None of that. You went, not refereeing. You chose to be a judge. How come?
I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. I just don't like to sit there and keep score. I thought boxing was scored by two judges and a referee. The referee would score fights as well.
Wow, that goes way back. They actually still do that in England, though, I think, don't they?
Don't they?
Well, yeah, in England, basically, the referees control all of them.
Yeah.
This is a real title fight, and they do it a little bit differently. They bring in judges in the title fight. For their regular fights, I think only the referee keeps score, which I never did like. I used to fight with the British Boxing Board of Control over that all the time.
Oh, you don't like that?
Nah, only a referee now, he has enough to do, making sure that, watching out for the safety of the fighters. He can't be scoring the fight, can't be concentrating on who's winning and who's losing. Somebody will get killed.
And are you still a practicing pharmacist?
Pharmacist?
Up until September 2011, I did. I worked for a chain in New York City called Duane Reade, Duanereade. It was named after their original store, which was on the corner of Duane Street and Reed Street in downtown Manhattan. And in September 2011, I got very sick. They discovered prostate cancer and a heart disease called cardiomyopathy and diabetes and cholesterol problems, all sorts of problems. And, I had to take radiation for the prostate cancer. And taking radiation 5 days a week really doesn't leave you much time. You go into a drugstore and work 13 hours. So, I stopped working in pharmacy in September 2011, and I haven't gone back to Duane Reade yet. I'm considering it, but so far I haven't. I'm starting to think I've reached the age where it's about time I got out of something.
And what's your health like now, Harold?
Well, it's so-so. I mean, I still see the urologist for the prostate cancer, and I still see a cardiologist. And, so I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah, I'll tell you something, Harold. I had no idea. You look like a vision of health.
Well, I don't hide it from anybody, but on the other hand, these things happen. At a certain age, you get expected.
Well, let me ask you this: as an intelligent guy and someone who's been involved in the medical field as a pharmacist for several years, what do you think of the medical care in this country, Harold?
It's very interesting. I have a friend who has problems, comes from the United Kingdom, and he has a problem with his shoulder and also his elbows, from playing rugby. And he swears up and down that the doctors in the United States are much better than the doctors in the United Kingdom. Even though in the United Kingdom, you just walk in and give your name and that's it, and they don't charge you anything. So, I mean, whether our system is better than socialized medicine, I think that there's something to be said on for both points. But I've never really made a study of the medical systems when I go overseas. If I have to go to Mexico or Canada or Great Britain or wherever, I just basically go there to score a fight or work for HBO or whatever.
You don't want to find out about their medical system.
No.
Now, did you ever go up to a fellow judge personally and tell them that you disagreed with one of the decisions they made? Did anything ever offend you to the point where you actually went in and confronted a bad decision made by a judge? Did you ever go confront a judge after making a bad decision?
No, not really. I mean, since I've been keeping score for HBO, of course they hear what I have to say, but no, not really, because look, everybody has a bad night every now and then. You see guys that sometimes they give you a score that doesn't particularly agree with mine, but then the next time they're around the same as I am. So it's just you don't see too many that really are bad on a consistent basis. So
Now, did you ever judge a fight live and then watch it on television and see a totally different fight?
Sometimes you get fooled by the TV because, number one, you can't, you lose the velocity of the punch. And number two, you get a one-dimensional view. And when you're there, you get a three-dimensional view. You can see what's going on, around the guy, on the sides of the guy, etc. And even though high-definition television has made it a little bit better to watch it at home, nothing is as good as being there.
I don't think I ever heard you make a public statement about any officials making a mistake in a prize fight.
But listen, I never criticize a referee for stopping a fight too soon. I mean, you got to go for safety first. So if a referee feels the guy's getting hurt, I have nothing against him stopping it too soon.
Let me ask you this, Harold. When you think about a bad decision that happened in the sport, what fight comes to mind?
worst I ever saw was a fight a number of years ago in the Spectrum in Philadelphia, the junior lightweight championship of the world between a kid from Philadelphia, Tyrone Everett, a southpaw, promoted by J. Russell Peltz, the popular promoter from Philadelphia now, and the opponent was Alfredo Escalera, who was the champion from Puerto Rico. And giving every break possible to Escalera, he still scored a 10 rounds to 5 for Everett, and Everett lost a split decision. And that by far was the worst decision I ever saw. That by far was the worst decision I ever saw. It was so bad that they didn't announce the scores till the next day because they were afraid there'd be a riot in Philadelphia.
Did you ever think about retiring from judging?
Well, I stopped judging officially in 2001. There were a lot of controversies. HBO asked me to stop because, I'd keep scoring a fight, and then the next thing you know, the guy would be on HBO, and, they'd start saying, Harold Lederman judges fights, and that's why he's on HBO. Well, something like that. So HBO said, Harold, would you just work for us and not, judge officially? So I stopped judging officially in 2001. My daughter judges right now, and I'm happy the way it is.
Yeah, Julie Lederman, one of the best in the business. Your daughter, chip off the old block. Was she always interested in boxing as a little girl growing up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when Julie was a kid, I used to take her all over the world. I mean, in other words, I would take her to fights in Venezuela, Chile, Argentina, Paris, Colombia, Panama. Wherever I was judging, she was there. So, she was a good student. I didn't feel bad about pulling her out of school for a couple of days, and she would go with me all over the world, and she loved boxing since, she was a little kid. And a lot of the boxing people knew, from all over the world, knew Julie when she was a kid, and, they're all happy to see her now.
And when you look at the sport as it is now, Harold, what do you gripe about the most?
Well, I'll tell you, I say this on HBO a lot. The biggest problem, man, and this is honest to God's truth, is the appointment of the officials. In other words, the State Athletic Commission's the final authority for appointing a judge is not the sanctioning body, it's the State Athletic Commission. They have to make sure that they get the best judges possible in high-profile fights. So in other words, when you got a new judge or a judge nobody knows, don't put him into a fight that's a main event on HBO or that's a pay-per-view fight. I mean, don't put an unknown judge into Floyd Mayweather, Miguel Cotto, for example. Use the best you have, and the rest you bring them up in the 4-round fights, and the 6-round fights, and the 8-round fights. The problem is that the commissioners were just so, they were pushed around by the sanctioning bodies. They would make that same mistake constantly. They would just put in guys that nobody knew and into very, very high-profile fights that the whole world was watching. And the next thing you know, there was a huge controversy. Typical example was that fight in Atlantic City with Eris Landy, Lara, and Paul Williams, where, he used 3 unknown judges in an HBO fight. The next thing you know, Lara lost the decision they should have won, and the whole world exploded. And the commissioner took the brunt of it and wound up suspending the 3 judges. And truth of the matter is, it wasn't their fault. They just weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for the pressure and all that sort of stuff. Had he appointed his 3 best judges, he probably wouldn't have had the controversy. And that's what I think is the answer. I mean, they have enough seminars and whatnot that the judges are forced to attend. What they need is they got to just appoint better judges in high-profile fights, and the other judges bring them along until they're ready to work the high-profile fights. But they got to be very careful when they appoint a judge to work a TV fight. And basically, that's what it comes down to.
Now, let me ask you this, Harold. Did you ever don the headgear and the gloves and get in the ring? Maybe spar a little bit?
You ever do anything in the gym?
No. No. I don't take a good punch.
You never know.
I'm not willing to find out.
One of the great perks to being Harold Lederman is you got a chance to see the world and the country. What's some of your favorite places that you've been to?
I love El Paso, Texas. It's right on the border, and the fans are so enthusiastic. I mean, one time we did Daniel Zaragoza against Eric Morales, and it was Morales' first title. I think it was 118 pounds. It was about 150 degrees in the place. They had absolutely no air conditioning. The heat was stifling, and yet the place was packed because all those people come over the border from Mexico, and they love it, you know. Just the enthusiasm in El Paso is like no other place in the world. I love going there. San Antonio is another great place, even though you get strange decisions at times with the Texas Commission. It's, you know, still the enthusiasm of the fans makes up for it. And, you know, it's a great place to watch a fight. I like Cincinnati, where Adrian Broner comes from. You know, great tradition of boxing. Guys like Ezra Charles came from there, and, you know, you could go on and on and on. Aaron Pryor, Tony Tubbs. I mean, it just has so many great fighters came from Cincinnati. Just, you know, now Adrian Broner's picking up the torch for all those guys that came from Cincinnati previously. When I was with HBO, since I've been with HBO, the only other Cincinnati fighter we really had on was a bantamweight champion at one time called Timmy Austin, who was promoted by Don King. But even still, Broner is just, you know, a throwback to these old guys, and, you know, just a great tradition to go there. So I like going to Cincinnati.
Where have you been to that puts on the best theatrical shows with their boxing?
Not Vegas. Not Vegas, because Vegas, you got that casino atmosphere. It's too antiseptic. Too many people sitting around wearing suits, sitting in $1,000 seats. But certainly New York, Madison Square Garden, people are nuts. You know, they have an expression in New York. They say they come out of the subways, and it's true. New York, you get the poor people, blacks and the Puerto Ricans, and basically they come by subway. They don't come in no stretch limousine. They come by subway to see the fight, and they buy the cheap tickets, and, you know, sometimes they buy the expensive ones, and they are by far the most enthusiastic fans, which is the reason why Miguel Cotto loves to fight in Madison Square Garden. And to tell you the truth, I wish he was fighting Floyd Mayweather May the 5th in Madison Square Garden instead of at the MGM, because of the economics of boxing. You know, they make more from, you know, the casino dollars out there, and, you know, what can you do? But as far as, you know, the enthusiasm in the Garden, it's great. Los Angeles, the Staples Center is very good for boxing. Fans go nuts there too. You know, you always want to see fans that are up on their feet cheering, and the Staples Center is very, very good in that respect.
What fight would you say is the absolute greatest fight that you ever witnessed?
Well, by far, the best fight I ever saw was way back, I guess it was in the 70s, between, at that time, the then WBC super bantamweight champion, 122 pounds, a kid from Puerto Rico named Alfredo Gomez, against the then WBC 118-pound champion, a kid from Mexico named Lupe Pintor. And they went at it like cat and dog for 14 rounds, and in the 14th round, Pintor fell down, and off in the count, he counted him out. And it was the greatest fight I ever saw. I never saw two guys go at it like that for 14 rounds. And when they walked out of the arena, walked out of the ring, Gomez's face looked like it had been through a meat grinder, and Lupe Pintor looked like she had never been in a fight. And it was just that sort of an incredible battle back and forth, and it's the kind of fight you'll never forget. Interestingly enough, the main event that night was Tommy Hearns against Wilfredo Benitez, which on paper was a fabulous fight. Nobody could watch it, you know, because you couldn't follow an act like Pintor and Gomez. I mean, everybody was draining from screaming at Pintor and Gomez. So it was just an incredible night of boxing. It was at the Superdome in New Orleans. It was a Don King show. That was the best I ever saw. And from there, you could just, you know, you could think of a lot of fights that are about on the same level. But the three Gatti Ward fights, the trilogy, certainly absolutely terrific fights, each and every one of them. And I'd have to say the same about Evander Holyfield and really all three of them. I mean, three magnificent battles. You know, you had no doubt that every one of them was going to be a great fight, because, you know, the previous ones were great fights. So those are three great fights that, you know, that come to mind right away. Of course, Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler was a sensational fight. It was, you know, a chess match, a cat and mouse type of thing. When Leonard would get caught up on the ropes, Hagler would hammer him. And on the other hand, when Leonard would keep the fight in the middle of the ring, he just outboxed Marvin. And, you know, it was just a great fight. Tommy Hearns and Marvin Hagler was a great fight. I mean, they went at it for 3 rounds. It was just, you know, incredible beyond belief until Marvin knocked him out. So, you know, those are some of the great fights that just come to mind.
Do you wish that they would bring back 15-round mandatories for world title fights?
I love the 15-round fights. I never really thought that, you know, you get more injuries in the last 3 rounds, which is what Jose Sulaiman preached when, you know, he changed things from 15 to 12. Everybody else followed the law. I don't know. just really believe that, guys got ready for those championship rounds, those last 3 rounds, and, you saw fighters get in better shape because they knew how to fight a longer distance, and I just thought there were a lot of great fights at 15 rounds. I certainly would love to see 15-round fights come back. But I don't know. The people that wanted the 12-round fights claim that there were too many injuries in the late rounds. I've heard other rumors that said that they went to 12 rounds so they could fit it into a 1-hour TV show, but I never believed that, I certainly was in favor of the 15-round fights. I thought they were exciting.
Do you think there's outright corruption in the sport of boxing?
I don't know. Look, it's business, it's politics, but actual corruption? No, I think that, like you, I've read about, Frankie Carbo and what used to go on in the 40s, but, I don't know, in my time, I think it's pretty honest, I'll be honest. There are places where I think they lean towards the hometown guy. Thailand, for example, Korea. Notorious for, hometown guys winning decisions in fights that go to distance. Those are mostly flyweight title fights that we here in the United States don't pay much attention to. Flyweight, light flyweight, strawweight, that kind of stuff. But, there again, I don't see this corruption. I just see this, a lot of nationalism where they sort of lean toward the hometown guy, and the hometown guy's always got the crowd in it, and, screaming for him, so he seems to get the benefit in close rounds.
Over at HBO, and I've been watching HBO and you since I was a baby. I mean, I don't remember when I didn't know Harold Lederman, but every once in a while HBO tries to invite the at-home audience to send in a letter to Harold, and Harold's going to answer it live on every HBO World Championship Boxing edition. And usually it just goes one episode. I think one time it went 2 in a row, but they always get rid of that Ask Harold. How come?
I have no idea. You'd have to call somebody at HBO. It's Rick Bernstein, the executive producer. He puts the shows together.
So it's like a one-time thing, and then they stop it after one time.
There you go. What can you do?
Not a whole lot, I guess. What do you prefer scoring? A tough to score fight where it's a tough, close fight, or would you rather have an easy blowout to easy and won't leave you open to criticism at all?
So, sure, you always want to fight that's a challenge, that's for sure. Yeah, you want something that makes you think, something real close, definitely.
We saw a pretty significant downgrade in the level of fighters that America's producing. What can we do to get kids involved in the sport again?
Well, they got to get them started at an early age. There are people like Willie Savannah in Houston, Emmanuel Stewart in Detroit, that just, take kids off the streets and get them started at a very early age. And that's the most important thing. Larry Hazard with his combat program in Newark is excellent. When they get kids in the gym at a very early age and get them interested, that's the way they become big amateur stars, and then they progress and become big professional stars. I mean, there's no doubt that, in cities throughout the United States, there should be some way to take kids off the streets so that they don't get involved in gangs and all that sort of stuff, and bring them into the gyms and start to teach them boxing at an early age, because certainly it affects what they do in school, it affects their character and their upbringing and everything else, and it gives them confidence. And I think that the work that's being done by people that do take kids off the street, like the people I mentioned, Hazard, Emmanuel, and especially Willie Savannah in Houston, who's unbelievable. That's the way to get kids interested in boxing and really make the sport grow.
Who are some of the nicest people that you met in the sport?
HBO Sports, Ken Hirschman's a very nice guy. Really is. Certainly some of the promoters are pretty nice. I like Bob Arum. I like Lou DiBella. Love Don King. I think he's the funniest thing going. And I never saw anybody could promote as well as he does, So some of the promoters are very nice. A lot of the matchmakers are very nice guys. Bruce Trampler's been a personal friend of mine for a long time. He's the matchmaker at Top Rank. Let's see. A lot of the judges are real nice guys. Like I said, I like Michael Pernick in Florida. I like Joe Pasquale in Trenton, New Jersey. He's a super nice guy. A lot of the ring announcers are really nice guys. I love Michael Buffer, Joe Antonacci in New York, and the new announcer, David Diamante, who now not only works boxing, but he's the announcer for the New Jersey Nets basketball team. He's a very nice guy. So you meet a lot of nice people in boxing.
Who are some of the fighters that you wish were on HBO but were not as of yet?
I love Austin Trapp, the junior middleweight champion from New Mexico. I hope we're going to get him on in August. They've been talking about it. He's very good. There's a kid that fights from Kazakhstan, a middleweight who everybody knew from the amateurs, but he's had promotional problems. His name is Gennady Golovkin.
Yep, and Gennady's going to be on HBO September 1st, I believe.
Golovkin. Incredible talent, you know, and he knocked out Lucian Buteg in the amateurs. I'd love to see him on HBO. There's a kid that's going to represent England in the Olympics that everybody's talking about. His name is Anthony Joshua. He's an amateur right now, but they say he's the next coming of Lennox Lewis. 6'6", good puncher, good boxer, good skills, and I'm very anxious to see him when he turns pro. The kid that's the junior flyweight champion from Nicaragua, what's his name, Roman Gonzalez. Everybody, their brother talks about him. Incredible fighter, undefeated, and I think he's the WBA champion.
Who's some of the best trainers in the game today?
Definitely Manuel Stewart has to be right up there. He's one of the top guys in the game. I love Freddie Roach. I guess everybody does, you know. He's certainly up there among the top guys. There's a guy in Pittsburgh I like very much that Roy Jones is working with right now. His name is Tommy Yankello. He's an excellent trainer. There's a couple of young trainers I like. There's a kid over in Brooklyn named Nirmal Lorick, Lorick, who's very, very good. And he was training Louis Collazo. But Nirmal's a very, very good trainer. You can tell just watching him work with his fighters. He works with a lot of the Spanish fighters, and he's excellent. Let's see, who else do we got that's really good? Levander Johnson's father, Bill Johnson, is a very good trainer in Atlantic City. I like him a lot. Very nice man, very good trainer. It's a shame what happened, but, you know, boxing is a dangerous game. Let's see, who's down in Philadelphia? Because Philadelphia was always known for the great trainers, although a lot of them are dying these days. Joey I guess. His name is not actually Joey I, E-Y-E. That's the boxing name he uses. He's got some Italian name, which I don't know off the top of my head, but he's a good trainer, and now he's promoting small shows there. So he's very good. And then that's about my top guys that I can think of off the top of my head. You gotta put in a word for Sam Colonna in Chicago. Very, very good trainer. I guess it's Collona, Colonna. He's excellent.
One of the guys that you had the pleasure to see and see throughout his career is Roy Jones. Why do you think he keeps going on now?
Roy Jones in his prime was sensational. Loved him. He showed us stuff that nobody else ever showed us, and you know, he was great entertainment. He was great for the game. He was a great fighter. You know, what he did was amazing, going from middleweight and winning the heavyweight championship of the world. You know, just an amazing guy. Had an amazing career, and why he's still fighting, I don't know. You know, he won't tell me. The rumors are is that he needs money, and you know, I guess, you know, truth of the matter is that when fighters step in the ring, and especially when they step in the ring beyond the years, it's money, isn't it? For no other reason. You know, you don't step in the ring when you're Roy Jones Jr. because you need somebody to slap you on the back and say what kind of great fighter you used to be. I mean, you know, Roy doesn't need that. Roy has gotten all his hurrahs, so he's not fighting for the glory. It's money, and you know, and that's obvious. You know, it's sort of sad, but you know, I guess sometimes you make bad business decisions, and these things happen, and I presume that's why Roy's still fighting. But you know, I can't think of another reason. But you know, for sure, I don't know, because you know, Roy never tells anybody.
Yeah, Roy Jones was great, though. Who's some of the other guys who stands out in your mind as maybe the greatest?
Well, you know, say Sugar Ray Robinson. I saw him once. I saw him live against Denny Moyer in Madison Square Garden, but that was late in his career. It was like 1962. Very late in his career. It wasn't the real Sugar Ray Robinson, but I would say he's the best. I never saw Harry Greb, but everybody says he was one of the top guys out there. I did see a lot of Muhammad Ali, and I loved him, and I thought he was one of the best. I love Joe Louis, and certainly got to love Rocky Marciano, and I love that kid from Philadelphia that never won a world title. Benny Briscoe, because Benny was exciting.
Yeah, speaking of fighters that never won a championship, what do you think of Charley Burley? How would he have done against Sugar Ray Robinson?
Great fight that never happened. Charley really gave everybody a tough fight. I mean, Archie fought him once and wouldn't fight him again. Charley was amazing. I mean, he fought everybody from middleweights up to heavyweights, and people didn't want to have any part of him. So you got to put Charley in your top 10. I mean, I used to listen to Eddie Futch when he was alive. He was a great trainer, and he used to tell me stories about Charley Burley. He thought Charley Burley was the greatest that ever lived, and, there's no doubt he has to be one of the great fighters of all time.
What would you say is the saddest thing you witnessed yourself in a boxing ring?
Tough question. The saddest thing I've witnessed. Let me think. I don't know. You see some of these old guys that step in the ring, that they don't belong there. What's his name fought just recently, and I thought it was just awful. Joel Casamayor. They put him in against the comebacking Timothy Bradley, and I thought that was very sad. Joel Casamayor, he was a great Olympian. He was a pretty good pro, and but it was sad to watch him get beat up. He had no chance at all to win the fight. All he was doing was getting the tar beat out of him, and it was sad.
Mm-hmm. Were you ever threatened by anybody?
No. Crazy things happen because there's no such thing as a gracious loser. I mean, I had occasions where I had run-ins after fights that I judged with people like Lou Duva, Gil Clancy, and Emmanuel Stewart, but certainly I didn't get threatened.
Floyd Mayweather recently got out of jail, and the sport is craving it once again, calling for it. You could feel the sport clamoring for the fight, but I think that people can't get too excited about it until it gets made now. But you feel now that Floyd got out of jail and man, he didn't look so dominating in his last few fights. I think they want to finally put the fight together. What do you think happens if Pacquiao fights Mayweather?
I like Floyd Mayweather. I just think he's got too much skill. He's too tricky, but I don't think he's the greatest fighter that ever lived. I think Robinson is, and I think one of the reasons that he isn't the greatest fighter that ever lived is he never fought New York. And I think that all the great fighters fought New York, and you have to fight New York to call yourself one of the greatest that ever lived.
Let's just hope that fight could come off. It's still a fight that I want to see. I kind of got tired of saying it, but if it actually comes off, I'm going to be a happy guy. But I don't think it will. And the sport's actually littered with tons of fights that should have been made and weren't. What are some of the fights that you wish you could have saw but were never made?
There's a whole lot of them. One fight that I would have liked to see is Carlos Monzon was a very, very tall middleweight. I would have loved to see Carlos Monzon fight Bob Foster. I think it would have been a great fight. It never happened. Mm-hmm. Roberto Duran was, a sensational lightweight. He virtually ignored the junior welterweight division. He moved right up to welterweight to fight Ray Leonard because that's where the most money was. But I would have loved to see Roberto Duran and Antonio Cervantes, also known as Kid Pambalay, a Colombian, who was a fabulous 140-pound fighter, and Duran and Cervantes would have been a sensational fight, and of course it never happened because Duran didn't stop at 140. There was just no money for Duran Cervantes in Colombia or Panama, and so Duran moved up to 47 to fight Ray, and of course made a fortune, made a big name for himself.
Duran, Chavez, 135 pounds, who wins?
Oh, at 135, Duran would have killed him. At 135, no contest. At 135, Roberto Duran was the most vicious guy I ever saw in my life. I mean, a lot of people say that Joe Gans and Benny Leonard were better, but certainly in my time, I think Duran was absolutely the most vicious at 135. He was beyond belief.
Yeah, he's pretty much everybody's choice for greatest lightweight of all time. What do you think he'd have done against a lightweight version of Sweet Pea Whitaker?
That would have been a tough fight. As Sweet Pea was so tricky. Sweet Pea could win a decision from virtually anybody. I really think Duran would have stopped him, but it would have been a great fight.
What are some of the most exciting fights that most people wouldn't think of that you saw?
Let's see. I love the fights. Interestingly enough, the two fights between Brian Minto and Vinny Mataloni. Absolutely sensational fights that a lot of people have forgotten. And both of them were great.
Do you remember the Murky Sosa Prince Charles Williams fights?
Yep, two of them. Yeah. Absolutely sensational fights. Murky Sosa was a tough guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny, he finally got a shot at Roy Jones, and they stopped it that third round, and it was a fight that should have never been stopped. It was a really bad stoppage, because he would have battled Roy down to the wire in that fight. They never gave him a chance, and it was a shame. It was in New York. The referee, I think, was the late Wayne Kelly, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. I wouldn't say that. I don't remember who the referee was. But they stopped it in the third round, and that fight should have gone on longer, because Murky was so tough, you know. Mm-hmm. And certainly the Prince Charles Williams fights will be beyond belief.
What are your thoughts and opinions on the Klitschko brothers?
Very, very good athletes. It's a shame that they don't have some more competition out there. You know, they're always in shape. They come to fight. They're big guys. And I think Vladimir is beatable because I don't think he's got a great jaw. I think he fights scared. But there's nobody out there to give him a contest.